Have you ever wondered why the richest 1% seem to play by a different set of rules? It's not luck, and it's not always inheritance. It's discipline, strategy, and mindset. While most people chase money, the wealthy make money chase them. Imagine waking up knowing your money is working harder than you are. What if the gap between surviving and thriving was just one shift in perspective? This isn't about greed, it's about freedom, choices, and control. Today, I'll show you how to think, act, and manage your money like the 1%, because wealth isn't built by chance, it's built by design. Money is a mirror of the clarity you hold in your mind. If you don't know where you're going financially, your money will wander just like you do. The wealthiest people in the world don't stumble into prosperity by accident. They begin with a crystal clear vision of what they want their money to create. They see their financial life as a map, not a maze. Every decision they make about spending, saving, or investing is tied back to that vision. Without clarity, money slips away into meaningless purchases and forgotten bills, but with clarity, every dollar has a purpose. Ask yourself, what kind of life do you want your money to build? Is it freedom to travel, the security of never worrying about bills, or the ability to leave a legacy behind? The clearer you become, the easier it is to say no to distractions and yes to decisions that pull you closer to your goals. Clarity transforms money from something you chase into something that works for you. It gives you the courage to resist short-term temptations because you are committed to long-term outcomes. The 1% write their financial vision down, revisit it often, and make it a part of their daily decision-making. They understand that clarity is power. It eliminates confusion, sharpens focus, and accelerates progress. Every investment, every opportunity, and every expense is filtered through the lens of whether it brings them closer to or further from their ultimate vision. This is not about having a dream. It is about having a plan that connects that dream to reality. When you know exactly why you want money and what you will do with it, you stop drifting and start directing. That is the difference between managing money like everyone else and managing money like the 1%. Spending is one of the most powerful decisions you make every single day, and yet for most people, it happens without thought or direction. The difference between those who struggle financially and those who thrive is not always how much they earn, but how consciously they spend. The wealthy understand that every purchase is either an investment in their future or a distraction, pulling them further away from it. Spending with intention means pausing before swiping your card, asking yourself if this choice aligns with your values and your financial vision. Impulse spending is rooted in emotion. It gives a quick high, a temporary thrill, but it leaves behind regret and emptiness. Intention, on the other hand, is rooted in awareness. It ensures that your money flows toward things that truly matter, whether that's education, health, business growth, or memorable experiences. When you spend intentionally, you buy things that add value to your life, not clutter to your home. You begin to see money as energy that needs to be directed, not wasted. Each intentional decision builds discipline, and discipline builds freedom. The 1% do not avoid spending, but they make sure their spending serves a purpose. They invest in tools, knowledge, and networks that amplify their wealth, while carefully avoiding the trap of buying status symbols that lose value the moment they're purchased. Ask yourself before every expense, is this bringing me closer to financial freedom or keeping me stuck in the cycle of working just to spend again tomorrow? Intention creates clarity, and clarity creates control. When you control your spending, you control your future. Instead of money slipping through your fingers unnoticed, it begins to work like a soldier for your goals, marching steadily toward the life you're building. The average person spends first and saves whatever is left, but the wealthy reverse that formula entirely because they understand that saving is not optional. It is the foundation of freedom. When you save first, you make a powerful statement that your future matters more than your impulses in the present. Every time you prioritize saving, You are paying yourself before you pay anyone else, and this simple shift creates long-term security. Imagine your income as water flowing into a container. If you don't direct some of it into a reservoir at the start, it will all leak away through expenses, bills, and distractions. By saving first, you guarantee that a portion of your money is set aside to grow, compound, and eventually serve you in moments of opportunity or crisis. The 1% treats saving as non-negotiable because it builds the foundation upon which investments and wealth strategies stand. It isn't about hoarding money or living in deprivation. It's about creating stability so you never live in fear of the next unexpected expense. Saving first also rewires your mind to operate from discipline instead of scarcity, because you train yourself to live on what remains after you've secured your future. This practice builds resilience, confidence, and freedom to take risks others cannot afford. Over time, the habit of saving first creates a financial cushion that allows you to say yes to opportunities without hesitation and no to temptations without guilt. It may feel difficult at the start, but every great fortune began with the decision to set something aside before anything else. The discipline of saving first ensures that money is always flowing toward your growth, your protection, and your vision, and once that becomes automatic, you step into the mindset of the 1% of the wealthy. Understand a truth that many ignore: assets put money in your pocket, while liabilities take money out. Too often, people confuse the two, believing that buying a bigger house, a luxury car, or the latest gadget is a sign of success, when in reality these are liabilities that drain resources every month. Building assets means focusing on things that generate income, appreciate in value, or create opportunities for financial growth. It could be investments in real estate, stocks, businesses, intellectual property, or skills that increase your earning power. Every dollar directed toward assets is a soldier working for you, producing returns long after the initial effort, while every dollar spent on liabilities ties you down with maintenance, debt, and obligations. The 1% grow wealth because they multiply their streams of assets instead of multiplying their monthly expenses. They see assets as seeds, small at first, but capable of growing into forests of abundance if nurtured consistently. Liabilities, on the other hand, are like weeds that choke growth, keeping you trapped in the endless cycle of working harder just to maintain appearances. To shift your financial trajectory, you must constantly ask yourself whether your next purchase will earn you money or cost you money. Redirecting your focus to assets means creating cash flow that eventually pays for the lifestyle you desire without relying solely on active income. True wealth is measured not by how much you spend, but by how much your assets provide without your constant effort. Building assets requires patience, vision, and discipline, but once you choose this path, your money begins to serve you instead of enslaving you. That is the mindset of the wealthy, and the foundation of financial freedom. Wealth is not built through random bursts of investment, but through the steady discipline of consistent action. The wealthy understand that investing occasionally, only when it feels convenient or exciting, produces scattered results, while consistent investing creates momentum that compounds over time. Imagine planting seeds in a garden. If you plant once and forget about it, the soil will remain largely barren, but if you plant regularly, water daily, and nurture the process, the garden will flourish. The same principle applies to wealth. Every time you invest consistently, whether in the stock market, real estate, businesses, or your own skills, you are laying another brick in the foundation of financial independence. The power of compounding rewards those who show up repeatedly, not those who appear only when it feels easy. Consistency turns small contributions into extraordinary results, because time multiplies money far more effectively than sudden large deposits. The 1% never wait for the perfect moment. They know there will always be uncertainty in the markets, in business, and in life. Their strength comes from maintaining the habit of investing no matter what, adjusting when necessary but never stopping. By investing consistently, You also train your mind to detach from fear and greed, the two emotions that sabotage financial growth. You learn to trust the process rather than chase quick wins. Over the years, this habit creates stability, resilience, and exponential growth. Even modest, regular investments can transform into significant wealth if given enough time. What separates the wealthy from the struggling is not luck or timing, but the quiet, unwavering discipline of consistency. Every contribution, no matter how small, becomes part of a greater whole, and that is how fortunes are built. One steady step at a time. Money is more than paper or numbers on a screen. It represents the energy, time, and effort you've poured into earning it, and that makes it sacred. Every dollar you hold is a piece of your life you can never get back, which is why the wealthy guard their money with the same intensity they guard their health. Protecting your money means being intentional about where it goes, refusing to let it slip away through careless spending, poor planning, or reckless risk. The 1% understand that money is a tool that can either work for them or drain them, and they treat it with respect. Protecting your money starts with awareness, tracking every expense, understanding every investment, and questioning every commitment. It requires saying no to emotional purchases, unnecessary debts, and financial traps that disguise themselves as opportunities. Just as you wouldn't hand your life energy to anyone who asked for it, you shouldn't hand your money over without knowing the return it will bring. Protection also means preparing for the unexpected by building safety nets such as emergency funds, insurance, and diversified investments that safeguard against loss. The wealthy don't take blind risks, they take calculated ones, always ensuring the downside is limited while the upside has room to grow. When you see money as your life energy, you stop wasting it on things that don't align with your vision and start directing it toward freedom, security, and growth. Protecting money is not about being stingy, it is about being wise enough to preserve the power you worked so hard to create. Every dollar you protect is a step toward independence, and every careless decision is energy lost forever, making discipline the true guardian of wealth. Living paycheck to paycheck traps you in a cycle where money controls your life instead of you controlling money. And this is the exact opposite of how the wealthy think. The 1% understand that true wealth is not about what you earn today, but about the vision you build for tomorrow. Thinking long-term means looking beyond immediate wants and asking how every decision will affect your financial future years from now. When you focus only on the next paycheck, you spend for comfort, convenience, and instant gratification, but when you think long-term, you spend for freedom, opportunity, and security. Every dollar you earn has the potential to either vanish in short-term consumption or grow into something much larger when directed toward investments, savings. The wealthy are willing to sacrifice momentary pleasures because they know the reward of compounded growth is far greater than the thrill of instant spending. Thinking long-term also allows you to anticipate challenges instead of being crushed by them, because you build reserves and strategies that protect you when life becomes uncertain. It shifts your perspective from surviving the week to building the decade, from temporary relief to permanent stability. Paycheck-to-paycheck thinking creates dependency, while long-term thinking creates independence. Every decision you make with your money should be guided by the future you are working toward, not just the present moment you are standing in. The wealthy plant financial seeds knowing they will not see the harvest immediately, but they trust the process and remain patient. The long-term mindset is the bridge between working for money and having money work for you. Once you break free from the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle and begin to think in years instead of days, you step into the mindset of the 1%. Relying on a single source of income is like standing on one leg, unstable and exhausting, ready to collapse with the slightest push. The wealthy understand this truth deeply, which is why they build multiple streams of income that create balance, resilience, and growth. Diversification is not just a strategy, It is a mindset that protects against uncertainty while multiplying opportunity. Imagine your life as a river system. If one stream dries up, others continue to flow, keeping you secure and empowered. Most people depend entirely on their job, trading time for money, but the wealthy create income that flows whether they work or not. They invest in businesses, real estate, stocks, royalties, intellectual property, and ventures that generate cash flow across different areas of the economy. Each stream may start small, but together they create a powerful current that builds unstoppable momentum. Diversifying income also reduces fear because you are no longer vulnerable to the loss of a single paycheck or industry downturn. It allows you to take risks others cannot afford, because one source of income supports another, giving you confidence to grow. The wealthy see income diversification as insurance against life's unpredictability and as a gateway to expansion. It is about creating options, freedom, and stability so your financial well-being is not controlled by one employer, one client, or one market. To think like the 1%, you must constantly ask how you can create additional streams of value that flow back to you, whether through active work, investments, or passive systems that run on their own. The goal is not to work harder but to build smarter, to design income that sustains itself while you focus on building more. With every stream you create, you move closer to financial independence and lasting wealth. The greatest wealth builders understand that money follows knowledge, not the other way around, and this is why they dedicate themselves to learning before earning. Knowledge is the seed that multiplies opportunities, sharpens decisions, and prevents costly mistakes that drain both time and resources. When you rush to earn without learning, you often trade effort for little reward, chasing short-term gains that vanish as quickly as they arrive. But when you prioritize learning, every dollar you later earn is guided by wisdom and strategy. The wealthy treat education not as an expense, but as an investment with the highest return, because once knowledge enters your mind, no one can take it away. It compounds over time, just like money does, except at a faster rate, because it continues to guide every financial decision you make for the rest of your life. Each book you read, mentor you listen to, or skill you master becomes a tool that opens doors to greater opportunities. Knowledge also reduces fear and hesitation because it replaces uncertainty with clarity and confidence. The 1% never stop learning. They evolve with changing times, mastering new markets, technologies, and strategies that keep them ahead. When you choose to learn before you earn, you lay the foundation for wealth that lasts, not just income that fades. Every mistake avoided through knowledge is money saved, and every wise choice made through understanding is money multiplied. Think of knowledge as the compass that keeps you from wandering aimlessly in the financial wilderness, pointing you always toward growth and abundance. Once you see learning as your greatest asset, you will understand that money is simply the byproduct of wisdom applied with consistency and vision. The ability to delay gratification is one of the most powerful traits that separates the wealthy from the struggling, because it transforms short-term sacrifice into long-term abundance. Most people fall into the trap of chasing instant pleasures, buying what feels good today, indulging in what satisfies the moment, and ignoring the cost of tomorrow. The wealthy, however, master the art of patience, choosing to wait, choosing to invest, and choosing to allow time to multiply their rewards. When you delay gratification, you train your mind to see beyond the immediate and to focus on the bigger picture of freedom, security, and lasting success. Every dollar you resist spending recklessly becomes a seed you can plant into investments, skills, or opportunities that grow exponentially. The joy of instant gratification fades quickly, but the reward of delayed gratification compounds, providing returns that last for decades. This principle is the heartbeat of compounding wealth, sacrificing the small reward now for the massive reward later. It is the discipline that allows you to say no to debt, no to status-driven purchases, and yes to assets that build independence. The wealthy do not live deprived lives. They simply understand that the best rewards are the ones that create choices, freedom, and generational impact. Delaying gratification also strengthens character because it teaches patience, discipline, and vision, qualities that extend far beyond money into every area of life. Each time you practice restraint, you reinforce the habit of control, and with control comes confidence. Wealth is not built by reacting to every desire, but by strategically directing energy toward goals that matter. By delaying gratification, you multiply both your money and your possibilities, proving that true success is reserved for those willing to wait for something greater than the moment. Money slips away quietly when it is not being watched. And this is why tracking every dollar is one of the simplest yet most powerful habits of the wealthy. Most people avoid looking closely at their finances because it feels uncomfortable or overwhelming, but that avoidance creates blind spots where money disappears unnoticed. The truth is that every dollar has a job, and when you fail to assign it one, it gets lost to impulse purchases, hidden fees, or habits that don't align with your goals. The 1% understand that attention creates abundance, and they treat money with the same level of awareness as an athlete treats their training or a pilot treats their flight instruments. When you track your money, you gain clarity about where it is going and the power to redirect it toward what matters most. This practice is not about restriction or scarcity, it is about control and freedom. Knowing exactly how much you earn, spend, save, and invest creates confidence because you are no longer guessing, you are choosing. Every purchase becomes intentional, every investment becomes aligned, and every dollar becomes a tool working in service of your vision. Tracking money also reveals patterns that may be invisible without awareness. You begin to see the small leaks that add up to big losses, the habits that weaken your growth, and the opportunities to reallocate resources toward assets instead of liabilities. Wealthy people are not careless with money. They know that what gets measured gets managed, and what gets managed gets multiplied. Attention directs energy, and when you give your money consistent attention, it grows stronger under your care. It's the same as watering a plant. Neglect causes decay, but care brings life and expansion. The discipline of tracking money shifts you from being reactive to proactive, from being controlled by your finances to controlling them fully. With awareness comes the ability to make better choices, and better choices lead to abundance. Every fortune begins with the ability to account for the small amounts, because mastering the small creates the foundation for mastering the large. Tracking every dollar builds the discipline, clarity, and focus required to step into true wealth. Most people handle money casually, as if it were something to play with when convenient, but the wealthy treat money like a serious enterprise, structured and purposeful. A hobby is approached with spontaneity, inconsistency, and little accountability, while a business is managed with systems, strategy, and discipline. When you treat your money like a business, you create order, and order creates growth. Every dollar is a resource, every expense is an investment decision, and every financial move is either building profit or creating loss. The wealthy understand this distinction and operate their personal finances with the same seriousness they would bring to managing a company. They track cash flow, balance assets against liabilities, monitor profits against losses, and adjust strategies based on results. This mindset prevents waste because it forces accountability. You no longer spend blindly but instead evaluate whether each decision adds to or subtracts from your long-term goals. A business never survives by ignoring its numbers, and neither can personal wealth. Treating your money like a business also means planning ahead, setting clear targets, and measuring progress regularly. It means building reserves the way a company would maintain capital, ensuring survival through difficult times and positioning for growth in opportunities. It means protecting your resources, minimizing risks, and ensuring that systems are in place to keep money flowing in, not just out. When you adopt this approach, You step out of the emotional cycle of spending for pleasure and into the strategic cycle of building for purpose. The wealthy are not casual about their money because they know casual attitudes create careless outcomes. They bring structure, they bring clarity, and they bring vision to every financial choice, understanding that money treated like a business multiplies, while money treated like a hobby vanishes. This mindset is not about being rigid or joyless. It is about being intentional, recognizing that money is a tool of freedom, and freedom is built through structure, not chance. The moment you begin running your financial life like an enterprise, you give yourself the power to scale it, to grow it, and to sustain it, creating wealth that is predictable, purposeful, and lasting. One of the most common traps that keeps people stuck financially is lifestyle inflation, the habit of increasing expenses every time income rises. It feels natural to celebrate a raise with a bigger car, a larger home, or more luxuries, but each step upward in spending quietly erases the progress you could have made in building wealth. The wealthy understand that higher income should not mean higher consumption. It should mean higher investment and greater security. Growing wealth requires resisting the temptation to prove success through possessions and instead channeling new income into assets that create freedom and future opportunities. Lifestyle inflation often comes disguised as reward, but in reality it becomes a chain, locking you into the same cycle of working just to cover bills at a more expensive level. By avoiding lifestyle inflation, you create the space to save more, invest more, and compound your money faster, which ultimately buys you time, freedom, and choice. The 1% are not immune to desires for comfort or luxury, but they delay these upgrades until their assets can pay for them without stress. They understand that true wealth is not measured by appearances but by independence and control. Avoiding lifestyle inflation is also about humility and vision. It requires the discipline to live below your means today so you can live far above them tomorrow. Each dollar not spent on fleeting upgrades is a dollar that can be planted to grow into something greater. Over time, this discipline creates an exponential gap between those who inflate their lifestyles and those who invest in their futures. The wealthy build lives of abundance not by chasing every upgrade, but by prioritizing growth over gratification. When you resist lifestyle inflation, you take control of your financial direction instead of letting social pressure dictate it. You focus on building assets instead of feeding expenses, and that choice compounds into financial freedom that luxuries alone can never provide. Growing wealth is not about denying yourself joy, but about ensuring that when you do indulge, it comes from a place of security and abundance rather than debt and obligation. Debt is one of the most powerful tools in finance, yet for most people it becomes a heavy chain because it is used emotionally rather than strategically. Emotional debt happens when spending is driven by impulse, desire, or the need to impress, leading to credit cards maxed out on things that lose value the moment they're purchased. Strategic debt, on the other hand, is a calculated choice, used as leverage to build assets, create income, or expand opportunities that outweigh the cost of borrowing. The wealthy understand that debt is not inherently good or bad. It is neutral, shaped by how it is managed and why it is taken on. They avoid consumer debt that drains resources and focus instead on productive debt that builds wealth, such as financing income-generating properties, investing in businesses, or acquiring education that multiplies earning power. Controlling debt requires awareness and discipline, ensuring that every borrowing decision passes the test of whether it contributes to long-term growth or short-term satisfaction. It also requires resisting the emotional triggers of comparison and instant gratification, which push many into unnecessary obligations that erode financial freedom. The 1% see debt as a tool to amplify results, not as a solution to emotional gaps. They calculate risks, plan exits, and always have a strategy to ensure borrowed money works for them instead of trapping them. To control debt is also to respect money acknowledging that every loan is a claim on your future energy and must be repaid with either profit or sacrifice. Used strategically, debt accelerates progress, shortens timelines, and builds opportunities that would otherwise take years to achieve. Used emotionally, it creates stress, dependency, and cycles of repayment that rob peace of mind. The key is never to let emotions guide decisions that have long-term consequences. By mastering this principle, you can use debt the way the wealthy do, as a stepping stone toward growth rather than a stumbling block that keeps you trapped. Discipline is often seen as restriction, but in reality it is the path to freedom, because the habits you repeat daily determine the results you experience in life. The wealthy know that willpower alone is unreliable, which is why they automate good habits, so they no longer depend on constant decision-making or motivation. Automating good financial habits means setting systems in place that run consistently without requiring effort, such as automatic transfers to savings, scheduled investments, or recurring debt payments that reduce balances without thought. These systems transform discipline into a lifestyle, ensuring that progress happens even on days when you feel distracted, tired, or tempted. Most people fail financially not because they lack knowledge, but because they rely on inconsistent habits, allowing emotions to dictate their actions. But automation removes that weakness by making discipline effortless. When saving happens automatically, you no longer debate whether to spend or save because the decision is already made. When investments are scheduled, you no longer try to time the market or wait for the perfect moment. You simply build steadily, letting consistency compound results. The 1% understand that automation is like building guardrails for success. It protects them from falling into financial traps and keeps them on track toward their goals, regardless of circumstances. Automating good habits also frees mental energy, allowing you to focus on growth, creativity, and opportunities instead of constantly worrying about whether you remembered to make the right financial move. Over time, these automated actions create powerful momentum, turning small steps into massive results. Discipline may feel like sacrifice at first, but when it is built into systems, it feels like freedom because your financial future unfolds without struggle. The wealthy use automation to make the best choice the default choice, proving that success is not about working harder, but about designing habits that work for you. Every habit automated is one less battle with temptation, one less chance for error, and one more step toward lasting independence. Most people make financial decisions by looking at the price tag, but the wealthy look deeper and ask what value something will bring over time. Price is what you pay in the moment, but value is what you gain in return, and the two are rarely the same. A cheap purchase may feel like a win today, but if it breaks quickly or adds no real benefit to your life, it ends up costing more than something of higher quality that lasts. The wealthy understand this distinction and consistently choose value over price because they think in terms of long-term outcomes rather than short-term savings. They see money as a tool to acquire assets, skills, and experiences that appreciate in worth, not just items that temporarily satisfy desire. Focusing on value means asking how a purchase contributes to growth, security, or freedom, instead of simply how much it costs. This perspective applies not only to products but also to investments, education, relationships, and opportunities. A business course with a high price tag may seem expensive, but if it multiplies your earning potential, its value far exceeds the cost. Likewise, a reliable tool, mentor, or system may require upfront investment, but it prevents costly mistakes and accelerates results. The wealthy avoid the trap of being penny wise and pound foolish, recognizing that chasing the lowest price often leads to missed opportunities and wasted resources. Value compounds over time, while cheap decisions often create recurring expenses. Shifting your mindset from price to value also reduces emotional spending because it forces you to measure results rather than appearances. Every dollar spent should bring returns, whether in the form of income, knowledge, health, or lasting satisfaction. The 1% grow wealth not by being the cheapest but by being the wisest in how they allocate resources. When you focus on value, your decisions become investments instead of expenses, and your money begins to serve your future instead of just your present. This mindset creates abundance because it aligns every choice with growth, ensuring that what you buy today continues to benefit you long after the price has been forgotten. The wealthy have mastered a principle that transforms lives, making money work while they sleep. Most people trade hours for dollars, believing the only way to earn is through constant effort. But this mindset traps them in a cycle where time is the limit and exhaustion is the cost. The wealthy understand that true freedom comes from building systems, investments, and assets that continue to generate income, even when they are not actively working. This is the essence of passive income, and it is the reason why the 1% can grow wealth at a pace that others cannot imagine. When money works while you sleep, it compounds without your presence, creating growth around the clock. Investments in stocks, real estate, businesses, or royalties keep producing returns regardless of whether you are on vacation, resting, or pursuing new opportunities. Each dollar you invest wisely becomes a worker, tirelessly generating results long after you've set it in motion. The power of this principle is that it breaks the connection between time and income, allowing your wealth to grow beyond the limits of your own labor. At first, building passive income streams requires discipline, sacrifice, and focus, but once established, they create security and options that active income alone cannot provide. The wealthy reinvest their profits again and again, multiplying their streams of income until money itself becomes an engine working around the clock. This is not about getting rich overnight, but about building structures that ensure you never have to depend solely on your own energy. Every hour you sleep, every moment you rest, your money can be compounding, appreciating, and expanding, carrying you closer to independence. To think like the 1% is to stop asking how many hours you can work and to start asking how many ways your money can work for you. Wealth is not built only by chasing opportunities, but also by protecting against risks. And the wealthy know that defense is just as important as offense. Most people focus solely on growth, dreaming about high returns and quick profits, but the 1% understand that a single major loss can wipe out years of progress. Protecting your downside means preparing for the unexpected, building safety nets, and making sure that even in the worst-case scenario, you can recover and continue forward. The wealthy never risk everything on one investment, one business, or one market. They spread their resources strategically so no single setback can destroy their foundation. They prioritize insurance, emergency funds, and diversification not because they expect to fail, but because they refuse to gamble with their freedom. Playing defense also means performing due diligence before making commitments, asking hard questions, and being willing to walk away from opportunities that carry more risk than reward. It is not about avoiding risk altogether, but about ensuring that every risk is calculated and survivable. The 1% think like chess players, planning several moves ahead, always guarding their king while advancing their strategy. Protecting your downside also builds confidence, because when you know you are covered, you can take bolder steps forward without fear of losing everything. Most financial disasters happen not because people lack opportunities, but because they were unprepared when things went wrong. The wealthy know markets crash, businesses struggle, and life throws challenges, so they design their finances with buffers that absorb the impact. Defense creates resilience, and resilience allows consistent growth over decades. Protecting the downside is what keeps wealth stable, turning temporary setbacks into lessons instead of tragedies. When you adopt this mindset, you stop fearing risk because you know your foundation is secure, and that security is what allows you to keep playing the game long enough to win. The wealthy approach money with patience, vision, and perspective, knowing that true wealth is built over decades, not days. Most people chase quick wins, looking for instant results and overnight success, but this mindset leads to disappointment, poor decisions, and constant restarts. Thinking in decades allows you to see beyond temporary setbacks and focus on the bigger picture of growth that compounds over time. The 1% understand that markets rise and fall, businesses face ups and downs, and life brings both opportunities and challenges, but over the long term, consistent action creates extraordinary results. When you think in decades, you stop being swayed by daily fluctuations in stock prices, trends, or opinions, and instead commit to strategies that stand the test of time. You become less reactive and more intentional, making decisions that may not pay off immediately, but that position you for lasting success. This mindset transforms patience into a superpower, allowing small steps taken daily to evolve into massive results when multiplied across years. $1 invested today may not look significant tomorrow, but over a decade it can grow into something powerful through the force of compounding. The wealthy live by this principle, prioritizing endurance over excitement, stability over speed, and strategy over impulse. Thinking in decades also reshapes how you view sacrifices, because giving up a short-term pleasure becomes easier when you understand the scale of long-term rewards. You begin to value legacy over momentary satisfaction, independence over indulgence, and purpose over distraction. Most people overestimate what they can achieve in a year, but underestimate what they can achieve in 10. The 1% align every decision with a vision that stretches far beyond today, knowing that real transformation happens gradually, quietly, and consistently. When you start to think in decades, you gain perspective, patience, and persistence, the three traits that separate wealth builders from wealth chasers. The wealthiest people in the world understand a principle that seems simple yet separates them from everyone else. They reinvest their profits instead of rushing to spend them. Most people view profit as a reward to be enjoyed immediately, spending it on lifestyle upgrades, luxuries, or temporary pleasures, but the 1% know that every profit is also an opportunity to grow wealth further. Reinvesting profits is how compounding becomes unstoppable, how money begins to multiply in silence without constant effort. When you take the gains from an investment, a business, or a project, and put them back into the system instead of withdrawing them, you allow your base of capital to expand. A larger base means larger returns in the next cycle, and larger returns mean even greater opportunities for reinvestment. This is the snowball effect of wealth, and while it looks slow at first, over time it becomes exponential. The wealthy discipline themselves to resist the urge of instant gratification because they know that reinvesting profits builds a machine that eventually works without their constant input. Each cycle of reinvestment strengthens their financial foundation, creating stability, freedom, and long-term abundance. It is not about deprivation, but about vision. Understanding that enjoying wealth later at a much greater scale is worth far more than spending prematurely on things that quickly lose value. Reinvesting profits also creates resilience because it ensures that your money is always working, always growing, and always building security for the future. This principle applies across investments, businesses, and even personal finances, as every surplus directed back into productive channels accelerates progress. Wealth compounds silently, without fanfare, without visible drama, and without instant excitement, but its results become undeniable over time. The 1% do not chase quick wins, they trust the process of reinvestment and let time be their ally. Every profit becomes fuel for the next stage of growth, and this cycle repeats until financial independence is no longer a dream, but a reality that sustains itself. The wealthy think about money differently because they focus on what truly sustains their lifestyle and builds their freedom: cash flow. Most people chase flashy purchases, buying cars, clothes, gadgets, or experiences to show success rather than secure it. They mistake visible symbols of wealth for real wealth, but the truth is that flashy purchases drain resources while cash flow replenishes them. Cash flow is the steady stream of income that keeps moving into your life, whether you are working or not, and this is what allows the 1% to live without financial fear. A luxury car may look impressive, but it depreciates the moment it leaves the lot, while an income-producing asset quietly adds money to your account every single month. Being obsessed with cash flow means prioritizing investments, businesses, and strategies that create ongoing income instead of temporary thrills. It means asking before every financial decisions, will this put money into my pocket, or will it take money out? The wealthy always choose the path that strengthens their income streams because they know cash flow buys freedom while flashy purchases only buy attention. Cash flow allows them to reinvest, expand, and live on their own terms, while those who chase appearances often end up trapped in debt or stress. Flashy purchases may give a moment of satisfaction, but cash flow provides lasting peace of mind because it guarantees stability and opportunity for the future. The 1% are willing to delay showing off in order to quietly build systems that take care of them for life. They know that when cash flow is strong, the luxuries will eventually come without pressure, without sacrifice, and without risk. Obsession with cash flow is not about deprivation, but about alignment with what truly matters: security, independence, and growth. It is about shifting your focus from what looks good today to what sustains you tomorrow. A house that generates rental income, a business that produces consistent profit, a portfolio that pays dividends. These are the choices that create wealth far more valuable than any temporary display of status. The wealthy understand that people may not always see their growing streams of cash flow, but they will feel its power in the freedom to live without limitations. Flash fades, but cash flow compounds, and that is why the 1% never lose sight of it. Money is one of the most powerful tools available, but it was never meant to be an identity. Too often, people attach their self-worth to the size of their bank account, the labels on their clothes, or the possessions they can display, and in doing so they let money define who they are instead of allowing it to serve them. The wealthy understand that money is simply a means to an end, a resource designed to create opportunities, provide security, and amplify choices. When you see money as a tool, you remain in control of it, but when you make it your identity, it begins to control you. People who tie their value to money ride an emotional roller coaster, because every financial setback feels like a personal failure and every success feels like validation of who they are, yet both extremes are illusions. Money can be earned, lost, and regained, but character, vision, and values are what truly define a person. The 1% use money strategically, investing it into assets that produce income, experiences that bring growth, and opportunities that expand their impact. They see money as a lever that multiplies effort, not as a mirror of self-worth. By treating money as a tool, they can detach emotions from financial decisions and make choices based on logic, strategy, and long-term benefit. This mindset prevents destructive habits like overspending to impress others or hoarding out of fear. Money in its purest form is neutral. It is neither good nor bad, but its use reflects the values of the person holding it. When you shift your thinking, you start asking how money can solve problems, create freedom, and serve your future rather than how it can make you look in the present. This is the difference between buying things to prove status and building systems to ensure security. Tools are meant to build, fix, and improve, and when money is seen in that light, it becomes a servant rather than a master. The wealthy know that their identity is rooted in discipline, vision, and purpose, while money simply helps them amplify those qualities and bring their goals to life. If you make money your identity, you will always feel the need for more because your worth will be tied to comparison. But when you treat it as a tool, you can use whatever amount you have to create progress in your life. This perspective frees you from chasing validation through material things and allows you to focus on creating value, impact, and independence. Money can build empires, support dreams, and protect futures, but it was never meant to define who you are, because your identity is far greater than your net worth. The wealthy see the world differently because they have trained themselves to view problems not as roadblocks, but as invitations to create solutions that generate income. Most people complain about challenges, wishing circumstances were easier, but the 1% ask how they can solve the challenge and in turn build something valuable from it. Every major business, invention, or service that exists today was born out of a problem that someone refused to ignore. Where others saw inconvenience, frustration, or limitation, visionaries saw opportunity, and by solving that problem they not only helped others, but also created streams of wealth for themselves. Turning problems into opportunities begins with a shift in perspective, understanding that every difficulty carries within it the seed of possibility. A broken system is waiting for innovation, a gap in the market is waiting for a solution, and a pain point in people's lives is waiting for someone to ease it. The wealthy have learned to lean into problems instead of avoiding them, because they know that the greater the problem, the greater the potential value of the solution. Income flows to those who provide answers, and the bigger the answer, the bigger the income. This principle applies not only to grand business ventures but also to everyday life. When you encounter personal challenges, you can ask yourself what lessons, systems, or services could be created from overcoming them. Struggles with time management can lead to productivity tools. Struggles with health can lead to wellness businesses, and struggles with money can lead to financial solutions that serve others. Every obstacle contains hidden opportunities when you are willing to think creatively and act decisively. The wealthy train themselves to remain calm in the face of problems because they see them as doors rather than walls. This mindset removes fear and replaces it with curiosity and action. Instead of saying, "Why me?" they ask, "What now?" and "Who else needs this solution?" This creates a ripple effect where each problem solved builds credibility, resources, and additional income streams. Over time, this ability to transform difficulties into opportunities becomes a habit that compounds wealth. By reframing challenges into possibilities, the 1% stay ahead while others remain stuck in frustration. Every problem is a chance to create value, and value is always rewarded with income, freedom, and growth. Negotiation is one of the most powerful skills the wealthy rely on, because it not only protects what they have, but also expands their wealth over time. Most people think negotiation is only about haggling for a better price, but in reality, it is about creating agreements that maximize value, minimize risk, and strengthen long-term outcomes. The 1% understand that every deal, contract, or financial decision involves negotiation, whether in business, investments, or personal life, and they treat it as a skill worth mastering. Negotiating well means entering situations prepared, informed, and confident, with a clear understanding of what you want and what you are willing to compromise on. This clarity protects you from making emotional or rushed decisions that could cost you far more in the long run. Wealth is often preserved not by earning more, but by avoiding unnecessary losses, and negotiation ensures that you keep more of what you earn. Whether it's securing favorable terms in a business partnership, reducing costs in a purchase, or increasing your compensation, negotiation is the tool that strengthens your financial position without requiring extra work hours. It also builds confidence because knowing how to negotiate allows you to step into opportunities without fear of being taken advantage of. The wealthy never see negotiation as conflict. They see it as collaboration where both sides can benefit, but they also know how to walk away when the terms do not serve them. Negotiating protects wealth by ensuring you pay fair value and never overextend yourself, and it grows wealth by consistently improving the returns on your efforts and investments. Each small win compounds over time, creating a massive difference in net worth and financial security. Those who avoid negotiation out of discomfort or lack of skill end up paying more, settling for less, and weakening their financial foundation. The 1% practice negotiation as an art form, blending logic, patience, and persuasion to achieve outcomes that align with their vision. They understand timing, body language, and the power of silence, using these subtle tactics to shift situations in their favor. Every dollar saved or earned through negotiation is a dollar that can be reinvested to generate more income, and over years this habit becomes a hidden engine of wealth. Negotiation is not just about money, but about influence, positioning, and control, and when you master it, you ensure that your wealth is not left to chance, but is actively shaped by your ability to create the best possible terms in every situation. Emotions are powerful forces that drive human behavior, but when they are allowed to dictate financial choices, they can quietly destroy wealth and stability. Avoiding emotional spending is one of the most important disciplines the wealthy practice, because they understand that feelings and finances rarely mix well. Emotional spending happens when purchases are made out of excitement, stress, sadness, boredom, or even celebration rather than logic and intention. In the moment, it can feel rewarding, like a temporary escape or a quick boost of happiness, but over time it leaves regret, debt, and missed opportunities for growth. The 1% protect themselves from this trap by building systems and habits that separate money from mood, ensuring that every dollar has a purpose and a plan. They know that money is a tool, not therapy, and that true satisfaction comes from financial freedom, not from fleeting impulses. Avoiding emotional spending begins with awareness, recognizing the triggers that cause you to buy without intention. It might be the desire to impress others, the urge to reward yourself after a hard day, or the fear of missing out on a trend. By pausing before making purchases and asking whether the decision aligns with long-term goals, you create a buffer between feeling and action. The wealthy often set rules for themselves, such as waiting 24 hours before making non-essential purchases or tracking every expense to ensure accountability. These practices remove the influence of emotion and replace it with clarity and control. Emotional spending is dangerous because it doesn't just waste money. It rewires your habits to seek comfort in consumption rather than in progress. Each impulse purchase is a small leak in the foundation of wealth, and over time those leaks drain resources that could have been invested, multiplied, and transformed into lasting freedom. The 1% avoid this by attaching emotion to outcomes, not purchases. They find excitement in watching their investments grow, security in building reserves, and pride in making disciplined choices that align with their vision. Separating feelings from finance does not mean ignoring emotions, but managing them so they do not control critical decisions. Money responds to logic, structure, and patience, not to impulses or mood swings. When you take control of your emotions, you take control of your finances, and when you take control of your finances, you gain control of your future. Patience is the quiet force behind every story of lasting wealth, and those who master it unlock the greatest multiplier of all, time. Most people are trapped by the desire for quick results, chasing overnight success, instant returns, and rapid rewards. But this impatience robs them of the extraordinary power of compounding. The wealthy think differently because they understand that time, when combined with discipline and strategy, can turn small, consistent actions into massive outcomes. A modest investment may look insignificant in the short term, but when allowed to grow over years and decades, it can multiply into something life-changing. This is the secret that separates the 1% from the rest. They are willing to wait, knowing that the true rewards of wealth are harvested over long periods, not in bursts of luck. Patience allows you to weather setbacks without abandoning the process, to hold steady when markets fluctuate, and to keep investing when others panic. It gives you perspective, showing that temporary discomfort is often the price of long-term abundance. Time rewards those who stay committed, who reinvest profits instead of spending them, who resist the temptation to cash out early for short-term pleasures. Every day, month, and year of patience allows compounding to work silently in the background, multiplying returns without requiring additional effort. This is why the wealthy do not rush. They understand that impatience leads to mistakes, unnecessary risks, and missed opportunities, while patience creates stability, resilience, and exponential growth. Embracing patience also transforms your relationship with money because it shifts your focus from chasing instant gratification to building a vision that lasts a lifetime. You begin to see wealth not as a destination to be reached quickly, but as a journey of steady progress, where each disciplined choice adds another layer of security and freedom. Patience is not passive, it is active faith in the process, the willingness to stay consistent even when results are not immediately visible. It is the mindset that allows ordinary actions to produce extraordinary results over time. The wealthy do not ask how much they can gain today, but how much they can build over decades, and this long-term view is what gives them an unshakable advantage. Time is the ally of those who embrace patience, turning small beginnings into empires, modest investments into fortunes, and disciplined habits into generational wealth. Leverage is one of the most powerful principles the wealthy rely on because it allows them to achieve extraordinary results without relying solely on their own limited time and effort. Most people try to do everything themselves, working harder and longer, but still remaining trapped by the natural limits of energy and hours in a day. The 1% think differently because they understand that wealth is not created by effort alone, but by multiplying effort through leverage. Leverage can take many forms, and the most obvious is capital, where money is invested to earn more money through businesses, real estate, or financial markets. With capital working for you, every dollar becomes a silent worker generating income around the clock. But capital is not the only form of leverage. Skills are equally powerful. When you master valuable skills, they allow you to command higher income, create greater opportunities, and build systems that scale beyond what ordinary effort can achieve. Skills like leadership, communication, negotiation, or investing compound over time, making each decision more impactful and each opportunity more profitable. Time itself is another form of leverage, and the wealthy know how to multiply theirs by delegating, outsourcing, and building teams. Instead of doing everything themselves, they invest in people and systems that allow them to focus on strategy while others handle execution. This creates exponential growth because one person's vision can be supported by many hands working toward the same goal. Technology is another lever that the 1% use relentlessly, automating processes, reaching global audiences, and scaling businesses in ways that would have been impossible a generation ago. The key to leverage is recognizing that your own effort alone will never be enough to achieve true financial independence. You must find ways to amplify it through tools, systems, people, and money. Seeking leverage requires a shift in mindset from "how can I do this?" to "how can this be done faster, easier, and more effectively through resources beyond me?" This mindset allows you to escape the trap of trading time for money and instead create assets that grow even when you are not directly involved. The wealthy obsess over leverage because it is the bridge between limited potential and unlimited opportunity. Every investment they make, every decision they take is designed to create more output than the input required. This is how they scale businesses, grow portfolios, and build empires while others remain stuck working harder with little to show for it. Leverage is not about shortcuts. It is about multiplying the impact of each choice so that time, skills, and capital work together to create results far greater than one person alone could ever achieve. Luck may create moments of opportunity, but discipline is what creates lasting wealth, stability, and freedom. Most people spend their lives waiting for a lucky break, hoping for the right connection, a sudden windfall, or a chance that will change everything. Yet the truth is that even when luck appears, only discipline can turn it into something meaningful. The wealthy understand this deeply. which is why they focus less on chance and more on building habits, systems, and routines that guarantee progress regardless of circumstances. Discipline is the ability to stay consistent when excitement fades, to make wise choices when distractions are tempting, and to keep moving forward when the results are not yet visible. It means saving when others are spending, investing when others are hesitating, and continuing the process even when it feels slow or difficult. Luck can give you an opportunity once, but discipline ensures you are prepared for it and capable of multiplying its rewards. A person who wins money without discipline often loses it just as quickly, while a disciplined person can turn even small resources into long-term wealth. This is why discipline beats luck every time. It is reliable, repeatable, and entirely within your control. Discipline transforms ordinary actions into extraordinary results because it compounds silently through time, just like money does. Every day you practice discipline, you strengthen the habits that protect and grow your future. Discipline is also a shield against setbacks because while luck cannot prevent losses, discipline can help you recover and keep going. The 1% are not immune to challenges, but their discipline allows them to adapt, pivot, and rebuild while others give up. This consistency is what creates resilience, and resilience is the foundation of lasting success. Luck may inspire you, but discipline sustains you. And it is this ability to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it, that separates dreamers from achievers. The wealthy know that they cannot control external events, but they can control their choices, their habits, and their mindset, and those factors matter more than luck ever will. Discipline builds momentum, and momentum builds results, creating a cycle that luck alone could never replicate. When you rely on discipline, you no longer have to wait for fortune to favor you because you create your own opportunities through consistency and persistence. Discipline is the ultimate wealth-building tool because it transforms every decision into progress and every effort into growth, and that is why it will always be more powerful than luck. The people you choose to surround yourself with shape your mindset, influence your habits, and ultimately determine the direction of your financial life. If you spend time with those who constantly complain, avoid responsibility, or live only for short-term pleasures, their mindset will slowly become your own, dragging you into the same cycle of mediocrity. The wealthy understand this truth, which is why they intentionally surround themselves with wealth-minded people who think bigger, act with discipline, and prioritize growth over comfort. Being in the presence of such individuals challenges you to raise your standards because their conversations, decisions, and perspectives naturally push you to think differently. Instead of gossip, they talk about opportunities, strategies, and solutions. Instead of competing for status through spending, they compete through ideas, creativity, and impact. This environment fosters ambition, focus, and resilience, all of which are necessary for building wealth. Surrounding yourself with wealth-minded people also creates accountability, because you are less likely to make reckless choices when everyone around you is disciplined and intentional. Their example becomes a mirror, reflecting the possibilities of what you can achieve and reminding you that settling for less is a choice, not a necessity. Proximity is power, and when you spend time with people who have already achieved what you aspire to, you gain access not just to their knowledge, but to their mindset, their habits, and even their networks. Wealth-minded individuals view money as a tool, setbacks as lessons, and time as their most valuable resource, and when you share space with them, you begin to adopt the same beliefs. Over time, this influence reshapes your behavior, replacing limiting habits with empowering ones. The wealthy are deliberate about who they allow into their circle because they know energy is contagious. Negativity drains and positivity multiplies. To grow, you must distance yourself from those who hold you back and seek out those who lift you higher. This does not mean abandoning people you care about, but recognizing that your future depends on who you learn from, who you collaborate with, and who you allow to influence your thoughts. Surrounding yourself with wealth-minded people transforms the way you think about challenges, opportunities, and even yourself, because it shows you firsthand what is possible when discipline and vision guide decisions. The journey to wealth is never easy, but when you walk it alongside others with the same drive, you move faster, stay focused longer, and achieve more than you could alone. Money, at its core, is not just currency but a form of power that directly impacts the quality of your life, the choices you can make, and the level of freedom you can enjoy. When you master money, you take control of one of the most influential forces in the modern world, and that control allows you to shape your destiny rather than being controlled by circumstances. Most people live in financial chains without realizing it, tied to paychecks, bills, and obligations that dictate how they spend their time and energy. They wake up each day not because they choose to, but because they have to, and this lack of control robs them of true freedom. The wealthy understand that money itself is not the goal but a tool, and mastering it means learning how to direct it with intention, discipline, and clarity. Mastery begins with awareness, knowing where your money comes from, where it goes, and how it can be optimized to serve your future. It grows through discipline, saving, investing, and protecting your resources instead of letting them slip away through impulse or neglect. And it multiplies through strategy, using money to build systems, create income streams, and purchase freedom rather than temporary pleasures. When you master money, you stop being a servant to it and instead make it your servant, working tirelessly for you, whether you are awake, asleep, working, or resting. This is the kind of mastery that allows the 1% to enjoy lives filled with choices, where they decide how to spend their days, who to spend them with, and what impact to leave behind. Money mastery creates options, and options create freedom. The freedom to travel, to live where you want, to take risks, to protect your loved ones, and to pursue your passions without fear of survival. Without mastering money, even the most talented, creative, or ambitious person can remain trapped, but with mastery, opportunities expand endlessly. Freedom is not about never working again, it is about never being forced to work out of desperation. It is about aligning your life with purpose instead of pressure. To master money is to understand its rules, respect its power, and direct its flow toward building the life you desire. The wealthy achieve this by treating money as a disciplined game of strategy, never allowing it to slip through their fingers unchecked, and always ensuring it is moving them closer to independence. When you learn this mindset and apply it consistently, money transforms from a source of stress into a source of strength, and that strength becomes freedom in its purest form. Throughout this journey, you've discovered that managing your money like the 1% is not about secrets hidden in vaults or luck reserved for a chosen few. It is about mindset, discipline, and consistency applied over time. The wealthy do not stumble into freedom. They create it by mastering habits that anyone willing to commit can practice. They see money as a tool, not an identity, protect their downside while seeking upside, and use patience as their most powerful multiplier. They focus on cash flow instead of flashy purchases, build assets that work while they sleep, and reinvest profits to let wealth grow silently and steadily. They surround themselves with wealth-minded people, embrace leverage, and approach every challenge as an opportunity to create value. Most importantly, they understand that discipline beats luck and that freedom is the ultimate return on mastering money. The truth is, wealth is not built overnight. It is built in the quiet moments of intention, in the choices that seem small but compound into extraordinary results. Every dollar you track, every purchase you question, every reinvestment you make is a brick in the foundation of financial independence. This audiobook has given you the principles, but principles only matter when they are lived. The question now is not whether these ideas work. The 1% prove every day that they do. The question is whether you will apply them with consistency and belief. Remember, money follows clarity, multiplies with patience, and serves only those who treat it with respect. If you master your money, you will master your freedom, and freedom is the most valuable wealth of all. Your journey begins not with a grand leap, but with the decision to take the next small, disciplined step forward, and if you stay the course, your future self will thank you for building the life that others only dream about.